Hello, and welcome back to my channel / web series as a 2015 Gilman Summer Scholar. This video is going to be a little bit different than the ones I've already put out. I know that the past ones have been very witty and, well, I like to think they're witty, and I've edited them so they're funny and light and had kind of upbeat music to keep you interested. But this one, which as you can tell by the title, is a little bit more about a more serious topic. I kind of wanted to make a little bit more personal, so instead of doing music and quick editing to make it funny and snappy, I'm just gonna talk and I'm gonna try to not edit. One of the things I've learned with video editing in my brief stint as a vlogger, I guess you would say, is that there's a lot of dead space where you don't really know how you're gonna phrase what you're gonna say, and you're left with this these like minutes and minutes of footage where you're kind of just like sitting there and you don't have anything to say, and then the idea finally pops into your head, and it sometimes takes a few minutes before you can say it the way you want to say it, and then you can obviously go and edit it the way you want to, so it looks like you kind of are just saying all these things and it actually took you a very short amount of time to figure out what you wanted to convey. And this video, I just kind of want to talk, and I know it's going to be long because I have a lot to say, and it's gonna be not edited to show, to not edit myself, basically, to use a pun. But yeah, I just wanted to talk a little bit about a topic that I think doesn't get a lot of coverage, I guess, in the discussions around study abroad, and that is mental health and mental illness regarding your study abroad experiences. It's something that a lot of my friends went through, a lot of people I know are experiencing now, and something that I experienced. And I know that a lot of people have feelings about talking about it because it can be very personal, and it makes you feel very vulnerable to not have that layer of, I guess, the wall where you seem fine and everything is going okay, and you don't want anyone to inquire, because maybe disclosing those feelings to someone else will make you more vulnerable to yourself as well. So I just wanted to talk about that, and this video, I hope, will serve as a reference for people who shared similar experiences to mine, or who are, thinking about going abroad and have these concerns about how they will fare in terms of mental health, because it's very important to talk about that, and it doesn't make you weak, and it doesn't take your power away. Just because you might experience any kind of neurodivergence from your mental state, which basically, in non-pretentious terms, I guess, would mean feeling anxious or depressed or anything related to those feelings. So for me, I have had experience with depression before. I generally try to be pretty upbeat. I like to tell jokes, if you couldn't already tell from my previous videos. I like to be witty. That's kind of my way of keeping myself on my toes, keeping myself, reminding myself that everything's going to be okay. And a lot of times people don't realize that I do struggle with a lot of anxiety, always have, and sometimes, especially in more recent years, some depression as well. And I should also say before I kind of go into more depth, that I've never been like formally diagnosed with anything. I don't take medication. I haven't like been to a psychiatrist who's said, yes, you have this form of depression, yes, you have this form of anxiety, but I don't think that invalidates the feelings that I've had and the way that I describe my mental state. But I also don't want to claim experiences of people who have been diagnosed or who do take medication. This is solely just my experience and how I define the way I see my mental health interactions with myself and with other people and with places, which is, you know, about study abroad definitely is relevant in that regard. So, in terms of my timeline with mental illnesses or feelings that correspond to those mental illnesses, I guess I'll just speak a little bit more about college because I think that's the most relevant. My freshman year of college, it was very happy. I didn't experience a lot of the feelings that I think I deal with now, but I did experience a lot of social anxiety. I just felt like I didn't really fit in for a very long time, and I wasn't in the right place or the right friend groups, but that was kind of the extent of my feelings. I was also in a relationship, which kind of provided me with a lot of like fallback support, I guess, because I didn't feel like, I felt like when I needed support, that was the person that I turned to, and that was definitely something I feel like that would be very different if I wasn't in that relationship. I would have probably dealt with things very differently. But that relationship ended up ending in the fall of my sophomore year, which was 2014. And for a lot of different reasons, I took it very hard. And it definitely made my mental health go very south. I felt very unmotivated all the time. And it went up and down because I did have a great support system once I told people about what was going on in my life. But for a very long time I didn't. And that was very harmful to me. But I also, in retrospect, have to realize that I wasn't able to convey those feelings because I didn't want to admit them to myself. So in terms of my, I guess, worst low, that was definitely my worst low, is feeling like so helpless and like I couldn't really accomplish anything I set my mind to, no matter how hard I worked. And I definitely see that as a turning point in my college experience because that made me realize that depression and anxiety isn't something that most people experience one time in their life, conquer it, and then just kind of live the rest of their life as if they are now like cured of these feelings. It made me realize, and this might sound a little bleak, but I don't think it is. It made me realize that those feelings are always constant. Like you'll have them if you suffer from depression, if you suffer from anxiety or disorders related to those feelings and sensations. But the way you lift yourself up from those feelings is the important part. I don't want to make it sound like, oh, you're always going to have these feelings. And sometimes, you know, that is the truth, and everyone experiences them on varying spectrums. But I've been very fortunate to have amazing support systems that have made me a better support system to myself and to others. But that semester is kind of what made me get more in touch with what I needed for myself and how to take care of myself. And it was directly after that time that I was applying to study abroad. So going to Cape Town was a very kind of light at the end of the tunnel experience for me. And it was, I knew it wasn't going to be like unicorns and rainbows and perfect. I knew that getting there, it was going to be difficult to adjust. And it was difficult to adjust, as I explained in my previous video about transitions. But like I said also in that video, there were a lot of times that I felt like I didn't really belong where I was, and it took me a long time to kind of get over the hump of homesickness, and other people transitioned much more easily than I did, and that made me feel kind of inadequate. And I didn't really talk to anybody about it except for my family, like my mom. And it wasn't until the middle of the semester that I really felt comfortable and settled in. But now when I talk to people who also went abroad and who came back from studying abroad, they had very similar experiences. And the thing that I think was most harmful was that we were all kind of going through these things and nobody was really talking about it, because there's so much stigma around mental health and mental illnesses that makes people feel like it'll separate you, it'll alienate you, and it does sometimes, because not everybody understands that these are feelings that a lot of people go through. But I think that this video, I hope what it can maybe help accomplish in some very small way is to open up the conversation about mental health and anxiety and depression, just so people can be more aware that it's okay to reach out to people, whether it's your friends, your family, strangers on the internet who are having like chat rooms or hotlines that deal with these kinds of things, because I think that reaching out for help is definitely also stigmatized in a way that deters people from helping themselves and finding ways to kind of take care of themselves. So in terms of like more specifics, I guess, in terms of my study abroad experience in Cape Town, it was definitely great that people were very interested in knowing about you, the high context conversations that I have spoken about in previous videos. But for me, the biggest challenge in terms of my anxiety was social anxiety, and then also just feeling like I was not able to accomplish what people were expecting of me out there, and I couldn't really let go of that for a long time, and that bogged me down a lot, because I had these goals that I had set for myself and that I had set for things like the Gilman Scholarship. You know, I wanted to do this internship, I wanted to do all of these different activities, and it just didn't end up being that way. Not because I couldn't do anything that I had set my mind to, but just that it ended up being different, and I had a phenomenal experience that I am so glad to share with everybody who's watching now. But it's a little bit hard to kind of set expectations and then not fulfill them the way you thought you were going to fulfill them. That's difficult for anybody. And in terms of the social aspect, I really like being social. I love making new friends and learning new perspectives through people, but it takes me a little bit to warm up, and I always kind of get the impression from, or I always give people the impression that I'm kind of quiet on the first meeting or introductions, and in reality, I'm a very emphatic person. I like to express my feelings. I love having conversations with people, whether I know them or I don't know them at all. But when you first meet me, a lot of people have said that I was kind of mysterious and they couldn't really read me. And it's because I have a hard time adjusting to new people initially. For whatever reason, it could be because I feel insecure about myself and explaining myself. It could just be that I am anxious that day about interacting with people, which can be really hard, because being extroverted and then having social anxiety are two very confusing and conflicting things, and oftentimes I would run into the problem where someone would ask me to hang out and they were new to me, and I was like, yeah, totally, like I would love to hang out, but they were new to me, and for whatever reason, I all of a sudden, after I would agree to do whatever with them, whether it was see a movie or just go out to lunch, I just felt this feeling of dread, and I was like, oh, like I don't want to do this. What if it would just be easier to stay home. A lot of it was easiness and feeling like, well, I don't have to do this, and if I don't, like, I wouldn't have to overcome this challenge. And whenever I did really just kind of pack up the courage and do whatever I agreed to do, I had a good time. Maybe initially when I got there, I wasn't feeling like I was going to, but I proved myself wrong almost always in terms of having a bad outcome out of those interactions. I never had a bad outcome. It would always be pleasant, and I would make new friends, and that's how I got close with a lot of people. But the feeling never went away. Like every time I would make plans with somebody new, or maybe just anybody, I would feel that feeling of dread, and that's kind of why anxiety to me never would make sense, because I would repeat these interactions over and over again, and it would always feel the same, and it was frustrating. That in itself was also frustrating, that I could never kind of get over the feeling of reassuring myself to the point where I wouldn't have these anxious feelings anymore. And it's okay to have those feelings. It's okay to not really understand what your mind is going through and what that does to your body, because a lot of people, myself included, can have panic attacks that are related to those, whether it's kind of just feeling unmotivated and being in your bed all day, or having shortness of breath, feeling like nauseous. There are a lot of different ways that your body can react to these feelings of anxiety and depression, but it's all okay to feel that way. And I think that's what I needed to be told, was it's okay to feel these feelings, and it's okay to not want to do things that in your mind will make you feel better. And I think what helped me the most in getting over those feelings is having myself remind myself that these are just feelings and it's not going to correspond to the outcome. Even though it's very hard to do that, and sometimes I couldn't. Sometimes I would just stay home, and maybe I would regret not going wherever I was gonna go, but both of the outcomes, whether I did go or not, I had to remind myself that if I feel like I can't do this, it's okay, but I also know that the feelings that make me think I can't do this are not rational. And it's okay that I'm having them, but it's also not going to harm me if I decide to go against those feelings and do something that I maybe have a hunch will not go well. And I know that a lot of people experience the same thing, maybe worse than I do or a little bit less than I do. And I'm just here to tell you that it's okay that you feel like that. It's okay. And it's okay, especially if you have those feelings and they're exacerbated when you're studying abroad, because they most likely will be heightened. You're in a new place, and you might not be around people you're completely familiar with, and that's all right. It's not a reflection of your entire experience there. It's not a reflection of you. It's just a reflection of something very hard that you deal with, that you didn't ask for. And that was kind of something that I definitely realized while I was in Cape Town. All of these thoughts and feelings that I'm conveying to you now, because I had the time to reflect and think about the stages in which I deal with anxiety and depression, and it made me feel a lot more sure of myself. But even if you don't go through those things that I went through, that doesn't mean that you're, having your experience wrong or anything. There's no wrong way to experience life abroad. It's just whatever you make of it, and there's no shame in feeling homesick. There's no shame in feeling anxious or depressed. You shouldn't feel like if you're a person who has these feelings at home that you have to kind of turn them off when you go abroad, because you should experience your whole organic self, whether that's taking medication for you, whether that's not taking medication, whether it's like however you deal with your feelings and your condition. Organic shouldn't mean like you shouldn't take any meds or like anything like that. It just means the version of yourself that you feel most at peace with, however you interpret that. So that's kind of the most important mental health lesson I learned while I was abroad. And definitely I think is important to think about whenever you're traveling or whenever you're going to a new place or just for life in general. So I hope that people who are watching this take that to heart and know that you are always supported and always exist in a community that experiences things that you experience as well, and that you're not alone in whatever you're going through. There are always people who are there for you to talk, whether that's like an RA or a parent or a friend or just somebody across the world who maybe wants to talk to you, whether it's a random person or someone who is back at home. So wherever you plan on going, whether it's Cape Town, South Africa, or somewhere completely different, just know that the conversation about mental health is important, and you don't show any weakness in wanting help or wanting to talk about it, because I know that I definitely felt like that at certain points. So I hope that this video has been informative of my experience and also allows you to talk about yours. And I know that it's been very long, but I hope that you, if you've stuck it out this far, have enjoyed it. So thanks for watching, and I will see you next time.